Welcome to Deep Thought. Outer changes can ignite inner change. I'm going to tell you what, as above, so below, according to Hermetic philosophy. And just to be clear, that's just something I studied. I'm not Hermetic at all, but I'm familiar with the principles. But anyway, and change on the outside of you can ignite a change inside of you, just like a change inside of you can ignite a change outside of you. But we'll focus on the outer changes. Like I'll tell you a basic one. How often have you yourself or someone you've known maybe gone through a bad relationship and they decide to cut off all their hair? I have a good friend that's getting out of a bad relationship, and she's contemplating cutting her hair. And I said, go for it. Go for it. And in fact, because there's been times when I'm going through some bad stuff or like some, I'll say less than desirable relationships afterwards, I'd be like, zzz. But I do that zzz a lot now, but I'm just getting older now. I look better with the shaved head. But I remember there was times, like if I wanted to change something, I remember one time, it was a few years ago, I wanted to change some stuff, some attitudes. I actually let my hair grow out. And there's a picture of that somewhere on the internet. If you look up, if you go to Google, put my name and look up images, you could probably see it. The beard was out, and this is before beard game got big. And, the hair was a little bit longer, but people were like, oh, you need to cut it. It's like, no, I'm doing something. And I've actually known some guys who've had dreadlocks, like long locks, and they were just cut it. And, and it was always about just a change. And, it might seem small, but it's something major. See, the way we look is important to the sense of how we interacting with the environment. Like, how do we cut our hair? How do we wear our clothing? And we develop habits in according to that interaction, because it's how people interact with us. It's how we interact with the environment. It could have to do with what type of job we're on. It always indicates a change. And yes, of course, that change can come from within, but sometimes making that change outside can make a difference. Like I give you another example. I remember this guy. I mentioned him before. I wonder how he's doing. He might have a commune or something somewhere, but I remember when the first time I met him, my first thought was Hitler Youth. He had a very conservative look, buzz cut, everything. But then he hooked up with this woman who, shall we say, opened him up. Somebody who, we both knew the guy, and he had seen the person, the guy, he said, God letting his hair grow out and everything, was living on a reservation with this woman. But it just changed him. Now there can be an argument whether that was an inner change or outer change, but like I said, we'll stick with the outer change. Sometimes if you want to change, like if you're doing stuff, an outer change can go a long way. Like just cleaning up your place sometime if you go through something bad. That's an outer change right there. Moving stuff around, putting stuff around in a different place, redecorating. It's a change because it's affecting how you're thinking, because everything affects how our thinking and our attitude. It could be a change just in fixing up. And you know what, my sister, rest her soul, she was on the autism spectrum. We thought she was mentally retarded, but this was before they had more knowledge of autism. She was just on the spectrum. I had her tested, and the psychologist that tested said in some instances her IQ was higher than his. And he wasn't, what's a good word? He wasn't pandering or anything or trying to make either of us feel good. He was just like, pfft. And that's part of the reason I brought her to that particular psychologist anyway. But I remember it was a big problem with her, how she fixed up. Her personal hygiene, how she dressed and everything. It really was a major issue. But I remember one time she was fixed up real well, and normally she'd be kind of, agitated, but I remember we had her fixed up real well. She was just sitting on the couch, nice and calm. Just an outer change affected her on the inside. And I've seen that happen when I was working retail. You know, I was familiar with the women who worked in the cosmetics section, and there were instances where, you know, before COVID, everything, where they could fix somebody up right there on the spot. And there were some women who they affected positively just by giving them a different makeup and everything. And see, and those are basic things, but, you know, I would say to anybody, you know, if you want to change something on the inside, sometimes the outer change, sometimes, it's not always 100%. The outer change, just say changing something, how you dressing, how you presenting yourself, could change a whole lot. It really can. It really can. Now, let me be clear, from a personal perspective, I still say, hey, you know, if you start from the inside, go out, but let's just be real. Sometimes you can speed it up by changing the outside, because that's actually a quicker thing. Especially if, like, I give you an example. When it's different seasons or something major's coming up and I shave everything, that's put me in a mindset of actually war. That's actually when I shave everything. Not just shave the head, but shave all this, shave the mustache. That's a major change. I'm shifting my consciousness. And it ignites it. It puts me in a certain mood. Because, okay, first of all, people are interacting with me differently. 2, I'm looking in the mirror and seeing something different. So that's an important thing, you know? And, you know, that's the thing. And, you know, the first couple episodes I did this week, you know, I was talking about, you know, genetics and social classes looking different. That can affect you as well, how you interacting with the environment. You know, because when I talk about social classes, one of the things I didn't get into, they all got uniforms. They all have a look. They all have you can call it stereotypical, but, you know, stereotypes come from what people actually observe and what they see. And so they have a look. But if they want to change, like say someone's lower class and they have, you know, the haircut, clothing styles of everything lower class. Or even tattoos and everything, right? And yeah, I know some middle class and upper class people getting, but just go with me on this one. What if they say, okay, I'm gonna take this off and I'm gonna present differently? In fact, let me give you an example. Example just popped in my head. And I remember I had to do a seminar with some guys on my book, and they were court ordered to be there. These are straight thugs. These were real thugs, not hypothetical thugs. These were straight thugs. But they were all working to change themselves. And I looked when they were at the meeting, I was like, man, are these thugs? Is a get together of thugs, or, you know, we're in a Bible study? But one of the things they did was just change how they look. In fact, I remember seeing something. This is about 2 black men teachers, someplace, I think it was in South Carolina, and they had a bunch of young kids, young boys whose fathers weren't in the picture. So what these 2 guys would do, they made sure all these young guys had a necktie and, you know, jacket and everything, and really work with them in how they were dressing. But see, that outer change could have changed where they might have been headed otherwise. So it's very important. And like I said, it's all, just keep in mind, interchange is also important. That can ignite. But as above, so below. Where you're affected on one level, you're affected on the other. On earth as it is in heaven. So what's on earth actually affects heaven, but then heaven affects earth. So the outer change can ignite inner change. I want y'all to really think about that. Think about any times in your life that maybe you got a different haircut, or you start wearing clothes differently. You know, shoot, even if your body changed or something, you start doing stuff differently. Outer affects inner, but then never forget, inner still affects outer. We just focus on outer today. At some point, I'll do the inner change thing again. Like I said again, a lot of stuff, you know, let's just be real. There's only so much new stuff I can add to what I'm talking about. But I get new people, so I put it back in there. So anyway, that's all I have. I'll get back with y'all. As always, think on this. Peace and blessings.